Hello everyone. So today I'm doing yet another wonderful book review, and it's called The Art of Happiness by Dalai Lama. And I really like this book as it talks about happiness. It's one of those books. And so I'll just do a quick summary. I actually have to leave very soon out of my house, so I'm going to do a very, very quick summary here. So essentially, he states that the purpose of life is happiness, right? And this is achieved by training our mind. So we want to identify the factors that create happiness, and we want to cultivate them. So for example, things like kindness, compassion, and friendship. And we want to eliminate factors that cause suffering, such as hatred, anger, and envy. So we want to identify the factors that create happiness and cultivate them. And it's not really the external environment that leads to happiness, but it's our perception of the events. So this our state of mind creates happiness. And similar to Tony Robbins' book, when I talk about rules, we can just choose to be happy all the time, right? We choose simple rules for us to feel pleasure and make it very difficult for us to feel pain. So we can react in ways that we cultivate the factors that lead to happiness. So it's our perception of the events, it's our mind that determines whether or not we're going to be happy. So everything happens twice, remember? And this is a common theme. First in the mind and then in reality. So we can choose how to react simply by cultivating factors that are going to lead to our happiness. And he also talks about being grateful for what we have and appreciating the things that we have rather than wanting more and more materialistic possessions, like having more money, etc. We want to be grateful for what we already have and appreciating those things. Um, some ways to train the mind, including um, um, being in events or um, cultivating events that lead to compassion and kindness, which eventually are going to lead to our happiness. So this is really, really important for us to undergo. And then another thing that he recommended is daily review. So improving, improving the positive events that we have. So reacting appropriately, cultivating factors of happiness, and then at the end of the day, you can review whether or not you are successful in doing that. So whether or not you react in a way that's empowering, or in a way that is going to lead to happiness or suffering. So, and that can help you increase compassion over time, right? These positive factors that lead to happiness. So he also talks about intimacy and compassion. So intimacy is, and both of which are important for well-being. So intimacy involves really understanding the other person's perspective, being open and coming to common grounds to reach a common solution with the other person. So putting yourself in the other person's shoes. Whilst compassion is kind of like, again, understanding the other point viewpoint and suffering with the other person. So like really, really understanding the other person's perspective. And this can be done by simply understanding the other person's suffering, or via compassion meditation that he talks about. So really like kind of like taking that suffering from the other person in the compassion meditation he talks about. And then the next thing is, how can we transform suffering? So the way we can do it is, first of all, accept it. Then we can confront the problems and look for the solutions if there are any. And if there isn't, just simply accepting the situation. Avoiding self-created suffering, so not overgeneralizing things. Understanding that all things do change, and not resisting the change, as well as finding the meaning in our suffering. So having a spiritual perspective can talk about that. And in the book on the man's search for meaning by Viktor Frankl, we talked some ways on how he was able to transcend his suffering and find meaning in it. The next aspect is that we can use to transform suffering is understanding the pain is something that gives us a lesson, and we need pain because it warns us of a threat. So pain can actually be beneficial, and we just simply understanding that it's trying to tell us something. So and pain is okay, and rather than being worried about it, um, or feeling suffering as a result of it. We should know that it tries to teach us a lesson. It tries to tell us some information, right? So it's a normal mechanism to warn us of some potential threat. And then the last one is being free from suffering. So avoiding any behaviors and thoughts and emotions that lead to suffering is very, very important. So these include ignorance, hatred, and craving. So we want to really overcome these. So we don't want to be ignorant or feel hatred to ourselves or others, or have craving, as I mentioned, for more and more material possessions, right? We want to be happy for what we already have. So we want to free from many factors that can cause us to feel suffering. So again, just to clarify about how we can overcome suffering, we can just accept it. You can believe in God or any other faith um, if that is the case for you. Um, Changing our perspective, knowing that change does happen, and all humans eventually are gonna suffer, and instead finding meaning in it, right? As well as that pain alerts us, it helps us grow, and we really want to develop compassion and become closer with other people rather than blaming them or criticizing them or making them suffer in some sort of ways. So we want to really think what events are going to lead to happiness and what factors, and we want to cultivate them. Now, the next portion of this book talks about how can you realize your potential, like what is a 3-step plan that you can achieve what you want. The first one involves education and weighing the positives and negatives of whatever you want to determine, and that gives you kind of like a reason why you want to do it, right? To see the benefits. The next one is having enthusiasm and the determination. So reminding yourself why you want to make the change. Remember, if you know the why, the how will come, as well as thinking about our impermanence. So if you remember about the deathbed mentality, knowing that one day we won't exist, that gives us the urgency to achieve what we want to. And then the last thing is action. So remember when I talked about like Awaken the Giant Within by Tony Robbins, we talked about conditioning. The more you do it, the more it becomes a habit. Same thing here. Habituation, so continuous effort over time, is going to help us make habits. And I also recommend you to read the book Atomic Habits, which talks about that as well. So again, finding the why, adopting a deathbed mentality, and really doing it over and over again to form a habit will allow you to form habits and achieve those things that may not be so comfortable, but you know that they're good for your health. So knowing the benefits and the why is very important. And then dealing with specific emotions, right? So for example, anger, anxiety, and hatred, right? So for anger, really having a patience kind of mentality and being able to kind of patience and tolerance rather than immediately feeling that hatred. For anxiety, you can ask yourself, can this be solved if you have a fear or anxiety? And if the answer is no, if the answer is yes, then you can solve it, don't worry about it. And if the answer is no, again, no point of being worried about it and just simply accepting it. And then for the other one is self-hatred. So for that, we can really feel safe self-hatred for ourselves because we know that we are amazing beings and we have an amazing potential within us. We have so much power inside of us. And so the only thing that we evolutionarily feel is love. So that's an important thing to consider. So just the main concepts of this book. Again, the main purpose of life is happiness, which is achieved by training our mind and discipline. Remember, cultivating factors that lead to happiness like compassion, kindness, and friendship. And again, recognizing the value of intimacy and compassion, right? Really understanding the other person's perspective, being open and reaching a common ground rather than trying to kind of stick your own perspective. Instead, listening to the other person, understanding his emotions, right? So intimacy and compassion. And then we talked about transforming suffering, right? Really accepting it and knowing that pain is actually trying to teach us something, maybe like some sort of lesson, and it gives us like an opportunity to grow and really finding the meaning in our suffering. And then we talk about how we can bring change, right? Through developing a strong why and knowing the benefits, as well as adopting a deathbed mentality can also really help, as well as knowing how to combat negative states of mind. There's no point of worrying or feeling anxious if if something cannot be solved, and if it is, it's good to just go at it and solve the problem. So, and knowing that you're doing your absolute best and just trusting yourself that everything will go great, and as well as really loving yourself, because that is very, very important. Okay, so again, cultivating those factors that lead to happiness are going to lead to happiness, which is the ultimate purpose of life, according to Dalai Lama. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next video. Bye.